Welcome to a sneak preview of the upcoming hockey roster for the St. Cloud State Huskies. I'm Katie Emmer. Alongside me is Mick Hatton of the St. Cloud Times. And Mick, it is only September, but it definitely isn't too early to start talking about hockey.
Oh, people come back on campus, and already we got people back on the ice, and the guys are already starting captain's practices, so we're not that far away.
Now let's rewind a little to the end of last season. The Huskies lost 5 seniors and 5 major roles of those seniors. Let's start with defensemen first. Ethan Prow, you have a top NCHC defender, Hobie Baker finalist. Who have the coaching staff replaced for defensemen this season?
Well, it's interesting because you'd think with Ethan leaving and that was just one defensive position that they were only going to bring in one defenseman. I think there was actually that was actually the thought kind of going into the offseason, but the way it turned out, Jacka and Dennis Chalowski had such great seasons in junior hockey that they've brought both of them in. They figure the more great players that you have, the better off you are, and the more competition for playing time, the better off they are. Chalowski is a guy that ended up being the first guy with St. Cloud State ties to be selected in the first round, taking the 20th pick overall by Detroit. And Jack Ashawn was the USHL Defenseman of the Year, and also spent a camp with the USA team that is working toward playing for the World Championships here this winter. Made the first cut, so a lot of good signs for those two guys.
Now let's switch it over to forwards. For those seniors and forwards, we have Kale Casilla, Joey Bennett, Jimmy Murray, and besides seniors, Patrick Russell decided to jump into the NHL. What have the coaching staff done to replace forwards this season?
Yeah, that was it wasn't necessarily a monster surprise, but I don't think it was a welcome one that Patrick signed a little bit early after his sophomore season. I think they were hoping to get at least one more season out of him. But with that, it was interesting because what St. Cloud State ended up doing was the two Palings, Jack and Nick, were already scheduled to come in here this fall. And then they decided to ask Ryan, their younger brother, if he wanted to skip his senior year of high school and come in. And so he'll be playing this fall as a 17-year-old and played with the USA Under-18 team over in the Czech Republic, was the third leading scorer on that team. There's some talk early on already that he might be a first-round draft pick next year. So those three guys are probably the big guys in terms of Minnesota names that people are immediately going to recognize, those three guys. But Jake Wallen from White Bear Lake, another guy, he helped the Tri-City Storm win the USHL title in the playoffs this past season. A guy that former player of the year at White Bear Lake before he went and played junior hockey. Had a very solid season with Tri-City. Garrett Forster is a walk-on that recruited walk-on, but a guy that played the last 5 seasons in the BCHL. Very high character guy. A guy that's going to, we'll see. I mean, St. Cloud State has had very good luck and very good success with walk-ons recently, with Nate Widman and John Lazat in particular.
And lastly, goalies. Our net is open this season after Charlie Lindgren decided to jump into the NHL, which again wasn't too much of a surprise. But the net is empty, and who have the coaching staff formed together to protect that net and give their trust for the Huskies?
David Zevnik, spent last season with the team, ended up not playing in a game, so he's technically a redshirt freshman this season. Former St. Thomas Academy goaltender. And then Zach Driscoll is from Apple Valley. Played last season in Penticton, and he and Jeff Smith, a goalie from Powell River of the BCHL, those two guys were 2 of the top goalies in the BCHL. Jeff Smith actually has a little bit of college experience, was a backup at UMass Lowell for a season, then decided to go back and play last season in the BCHL. So it'll be interesting because I think there's going to be a lot of competition as to who's going to take over that number 1 spot, or maybe it might end up being a platoon situation depending on how guys fare here in the early going.
Well, Mick, thank you again for joining me here today, and we both look forward to the opening game here at Pembroke's National Hockey Center on October 2nd.